Good afternoon to all the participants. I, Ravi Gatti, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, Karnataka. We welcome you all for the day 1, session 3 for the 5 days AICT training and learning Atal Academy sponsored online faculty development program on training for social connectedness and inspiration, organized by Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, Karnataka. In the morning session, we had a keynote speakers, Professor Mahavir Penna, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, SVCE Bengaluru, highlighted on emotional intelligence, better emotion regulation skills. In the second session, Mr. Stephen Dev Paul, Head of Product at Ignite X Labs, Bengaluru, Urban Karnataka, India, focused on human social warriors. We hope all the participants enjoyed both the session and request to make best practice in their day-to-day life. For the afternoon session, along with us we have Dr. Madhurima Das, Learning and Development Consultant and guest faculty, Mount Carmel College, Bengaluru. We'll be delivering talk on work-life balance to rebalance. First of all, on behalf of management, principal, and from the head of the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, we welcome you for this light event. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to introduce session speaker to the participant with a brief profile. Madam has 16 years of experience in academia and industry with a keen focus on learning and development. A trained psychologist with a PhD in management from the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. An academic facilitator, specialization in courses on research writing and methodology, behavioral science, organizational development and change. Currently teaching master's students of psychology and public policy at Mount Carmel College and a guest faculty with NIAS. Madam is an industry consultant with a forte in customized learning and development programs on work-life balance and emotional intelligence, design thinking, leadership and performance management, storytelling, mentoring and networking, organization culture and climate, creativity and innovation, I for detailed and accountability, a POSH enabler for organization and a diversity and inclusion expert. Dr. Madhurima Das specializes in the development and execution of behavioral assessment and analysis to delineate skill gap in individuals and the corresponding organizational needs, both academia and industry, and plan intervention for change accordingly. Madam educational details includes summer school graduate in International Management, University of Exeter, UK 2011, PhD in Management, Department of Management Studies, Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru, with a PhD title, Development of Multi-Consultant Framework for Assessing Work-Life Balance, Validation and its Applicability in the Indian Context in the year 2013. Madam holds Masters in Clinical Psychology, Bangalore University in the year 2004. Madam also holds several certification courses under her credential. With this brief introduction, I request ma'am to take over the session. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravi. That was very kind of you. And it is my pleasure to be here today. I thank the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Bengaluru, for this invitation. Any faculty development program that focuses on understanding social connectedness and inspiration by itself is setting an example for its faculty members. The idea is to understand that we need to look at our life and understand how to interconnect our work, our life, and us together. I'm very happy to note that this morning you began with a session on emotional intelligence, and then you understood how to carve a path of emotional intelligence for yourself. Having said that, work life is a misnomer. Can we really achieve it? What has the pandemic done to us? That is what we are going to look at our talk today. The conversation today is about the new normal, right? What is it? What is it that we did? The balance before the pandemic happened. How did we achieve the balance? What were the challenges that we faced? All of us here in the session today are faculty members. Yeah, many of us deal with our jobs as faculty members. We also manage things in the administration. A lot of us could be mentors to students. We play multiple roles in our career. So I'm going to look and understand how is it that we balanced our work life before the pandemic. Then we look at a small segment on understanding how the entire scenario changed. The fact that today a faculty development program is happening completely online, right? When I was told that we're going to, it's a streaming format and you're going to talk to a lot of them, I said, wow, because today when I'm in Bengaluru, I do not travel from Whitefield to Electronic City to do sessions or to Yeshwanthpur where I stay. I actually end up traveling from Google Meet to Zoom Link to like it is today, a live streaming platform, right? Our ways of working have completely changed. And with that, the adjustment that's required of it. It's chaos, it's change, and at the same time, it has built our confidence to deal with it. And finally, what are we doing to rebalance our lives, right? Everything was okay, and then pandemic happened, change happened. For faculty members, for members of the teaching fraternity, the change has been humongous, right? But life has gone on. Our students are writing online exams, our students are attending classes, our students are completing their academic year, albeit a little later than we had planned, but it's happening. So how did we do this rebalance? What does work life mean to you, right? Is it just about adjusting your demands of work? Is it just about understanding what your life is? Is it just about saying, you know what, I wake up today, I'm a faculty member in this department, this is what I need to teach, this is my subject, this is my core area, these are my research deadlines for the year, these are the publications that I have to look at, these are the official project grants that I'm working on. I have to meet these requirements because this will also determine my promotion. At the same time, I have to continuously engage with my students. I have to mentor them, I have to work with them, I have to complete my academic duties, right? That's all work. What's life? Life is when we get back home, right? Each of us have different roles in our lives. Yeah, some of us could be married, some of us could have children, some of us could have parental responsibilities. Our lives differ. Each of our lives are like a jigsaw puzzle which has to be fit together. What are we constantly doing? We are managing career demands. We are managing our personal role demands, right? And we are also managing ourselves. I'm going to quote a study that was in the Harvard Business Review in 2014, but a study that is very, very relevant even today. This was a study that was done over 5 years, and they interviewed 4,000 executives. Okay, it was a study by the business school, and it's surveyed executives. But why am I talking about it? Because the study said that work-life balance is an elusive ideal, and at worst, a complete myth. Because at the end of the day, you have to make deliberate choices about what opportunities you want to pursue, what you want to say no to. How do you react to crisis? How do you react to change? How do you react to emergencies? Leaders can and will engage meaningfully, right? And all of us faculty members here, I say all of us because I'm also a guest professor with a city college and I teach master's students. And I understand how demanding it is. I have theory exams, I have practical exams to take care of, right? I have thesis dissertations. So I have students who are allocated to me whom I guide over every academic year. So our demands are very high. So a faculty member is like the leader of an organization. We have our responsibilities and our roles bring with it a certain amount of credibility. In that study, it was seen that most of the men and women said that the most important thing for them in life was rewarding relationships, right? Are we able to manage our family? Are we able to manage our relationships in our community? Are we able to manage our relationships at work? Happiness and enjoyment was also important, right? Work-life balance was also important. Interestingly, if you see this, more men have spoken about rewarding relationships, right? More women, that's 1%, have spoken about work-life balance. But the fact remains that these are some things that we continuously strive for, irrespective of the sector we are in, whether we are in the industry or whether we are in the education sector. I'm a person who transverses my role to both sectors. I train in industry and I teach in academia. And I've seen that the challenges that leaders, mid-management or senior management leaders face in industry are also challenges that our faculty people face in academic institutions, right? Just the environment or the ecosystem may seem a little different, but the challenges are the same. And when we look at these challenges, what becomes important to us? What becomes important is the role of our support system, right? As a faculty member, all of us have to look at different support systems, okay? Relational support systems. Your peers, your family, that's your relational support system. All of us have a hard day at work. We have somebody we can reach out to at work. It could be a mentor, it could be a senior faculty member who mentors junior faculty members. When I started my stint in the academia, I had a senior faculty member who mentored me, and that really helps, right? Because that's a huge form of support that we get. The next thing is the societal support system. What kind of support systems are there in the society? For us, a lot of them are institutional. A lot of women faculty members who are working, a lot of men faculty members who are working, we may want to have a nanny, we may want to have a cook, we may want to send our children to daycare, right? I'm talking especially of the people who have families, who are married, who have children. There's a huge work-life dilemma constantly. For people who are single, they have their own challenges, right? You're expected to work longer hours. You could have parents who are elderly at home. You could have other home-based responsibilities, right? So we need to understand what is the societal support system that's there. And that is primarily the institutional support system that we have. For young people, for young faculty members, the societal support system is also have about, wanting to go out, wanting to do something over the weekend. Maybe be part of a social venture, volunteer at an NGO, maybe go out for a drive, maybe go out for a trek, go out for a learning, go out to learn music. It could be anything. All these form support systems at society level to help us balance our work and life. Then we have organizational support or institutional support system. Being in academia, we all understand that academia works in a particular manner, right? Our colleges have a particular time. So we have a schedule, we have a timetable, and we have to follow that. We have to log into work or, sign our attendance in at work at a particular time, right? 10, 15 years back, we used to sign in registers. Now we do biometric attendance in most colleges. So you come into college, you have a particular time when you sign in. You finish work and you sign out. While the days may seem shorter for a lot of people who are looking at our work from outside, they don't realize that there's a lot of us who also carry back work. The work is constant. A student could connect with you later in the evening because they have some doubts. Over the weekend, you're sitting and planning. For example, when I first got to know about this faculty development program, I realized that to organize a 5-day faculty development program with multiple sessions, coordinating with multiple speakers, is so much of work. And you could have a committee of 10 people, but it's humongous work. And many of them in the organizing committee would have been working weekends over the last few weeks, right? So there's a huge amount of community that you develop that needs to work together towards a particular goal. And at an academic level, your faculty members, your peers are your support system. That's the largest support system that the organization provides you. Apart from the fact that your work hours are a particular kind, you have holidays, some colleges may work 2 Saturdays a month, some colleges may work 3 Saturdays a month. Okay, so it could differ college to college. It could differ depending on the professional course that you're teaching. Engineering colleges have a particular format. Medical colleges have a particular format. Graduate, undergraduate, and postgraduate colleges have a particular format, right? So we have to understand how do these formats work. How does an organization provide you the support? As faculty members, when you're constantly trying to get, a project, you're trying to apply for grants, you have some amount of institutional support that comes in. That support helps you develop your career. So when you look at support system, a support system is not only about balancing your work and your life, but a support system is how does it help you traverse the career? How does it help you move ahead? That's one part of the support. The other part of the support system is how does it help you manage your personal goals, right? So we could have a professional goal, we could have a personal goal. I could be wanting to teach all my life. That's my professional goal. From a personal goal, I may want to learn something new. This pandemic, I actually did a course on coaching, a very strenuous certification course. And I also did a course from Yale University because I wanted to upskill myself. So that's a personal goal. Do I have the support system for it? Yes, I do. Because when I plan my day, I know that I adjust my work accordingly. I have support from my family. So your relational support system, your societal support system, and your organizational support system helps you understand that work-life balance. However, it is not that simple. right? It is not just about putting a Venn diagram. It is not just about doing these spirals and talking to you about it. Each of you, as I speak, I want you to reflect on what does this mean for you, right? To understand what is your societal support system, which is your strongest support system. Is it the support from your institution, or is it the relational support? Is it the support from friends and family? Is it the support of having a cook, having a help, having a nanny, or maybe a daycare facility, or having somebody who takes care of your child, right? So we all have to understand what is our support system. A lot of our male faculty who may also be doing projects, a lot of our female faculties who may be doing extra projects, who may have to travel on work. How do you manage your life at that point of time? How do you manage your family responsibilities at that point of time? This is something that we have to understand. If I was speaking to a crowd 20 years back, I would think that, most of the men have their wives maybe at home or they have a larger support system. Today, both men and women are going out for projects. We are traveling a lot, right? We're constantly interacting. Both of us need a support system. Work-life balance initially, the earlier research was primarily on women because women were the ones who were facing the burden of work life. But as I see it today, I also understand that men face challenges. During my doctoral work, I understood that there are a lot of single parents who are men who have challenges of work in life. There are parents, there are male parents whose spouse is traveling or who's posted abroad. So it's a man with a child in Bangalore who's managing it all, right? So these are work-life challenges that we also have to look at and we have to understand. But what does it mean for teachers, right? Let's narrow down the conversation. One is work life, one is organizational support, relational support, social support. But what does it mean for teachers? What's happening in the education sector? The challenges that school teachers face, college teachers, professional college teachers could face it a little more aggravated manner. The challenges are still the same. A lot of us who are teaching, who are faculty members, could experience a lot of stress, right? Because senior faculty members are like senior leaders in an organization. You're managing not only your role of teaching, you're mentoring students, you're doing a lot of administrative work, you're managing maybe clubs, you're managing societies, you're managing, getting grants and funds for projects. You could be doing multiple roles. Very rarely do we have faculty members in professional colleges today who are only teaching, right? We're doing multiple roles. So how are we balancing that role out? It's very, very stressful. And a lot of us face that stress. The next thing is the long work hours. So officially, you could be doing only a particular set of hours, which you're clocking in, but then you take work back. I know a lot of friends who are teaching professional courses who say that, we take back, we have huge batch numbers. We have students who are 100 students in a class, 120, 140 students in a class. So they're taking back answer scripts to correct over the weekend, right? Today with online exams, the correction formats have changed, but different colleges are following different formats. Some colleges are following a blended format, right? Wherein we do a part of physical classes, a part of online. Some of us are doing fully online. Some of us are doing, courses wherein some students from the city have come back. So you're giving the class in an offline mode, but at the same time, you are on that Microsoft Teams or that Google Meet where the rest of your students are connected. It's very, very stressful. Our work hours have increased, right? Also, a lot of times teachers are unable to switch off, right? When we talk about work-life balance, when we talk about it in corporates, when we talk about it in other organizations, you will see that people may say, I switch off. I do nothing over the weekend. But a lot of times, it's very, very difficult for teachers to completely switch off. Why is it so? Is it because the work demand is high? Yes, it is. But what is more? Because as teachers, you're also connected to your students constantly at a human level. A lot of times, challenges, crises may come up. For example, if you're part of a professional college, which also has a hostel, and I have had some teacher friends who are also hostel wardens, it's an extra added responsibility, right? Just look at how a teacher balances their life. There is so much that you do. Okay, I'm using the word teacher to refer to anybody who's teaching. Okay, so I'm not saying assistant professor, associate professor, professor. I'm just saying that everybody who teaches is a teacher, right? Irrespective of the college you're teaching at. But I understand this is primarily for engineering faculty. So I'm referring to all of you here. The challenges that you face when you teach, right? A lot of times, politics at workplace is a challenge. How do you navigate that? How do you deal with it? How do you understand how you should be assertive in communication? Communication challenges come up. That affects your work and life. But then, what is it that you all do? What is the model that has worked for us? When we want to balance our work and life, what are we looking at? Right? We look at compartmentalizing our work and life. We look at segmenting them out. Let us not worry. At work, we'll do what needs to be done. At home, we'll do what needs to be done. That's some of us. I'm not sure how many of us have logged in here to the talk, but if it's about a large number, a small percentage of us would do this. Then there are some of us, most of us actually, who are constantly in the spillover theory, which means that we have had a bad day at home. We think about it when we are at work. We can't forget what happened. Something happened with the spouse, something went wrong at home. Okay, the plumbing is not working. We are worried about it. Something went wrong with the, electricity meter. We are worried about it. Some carpentry work needs to be done. We are worried about it. Right? It spills over. Stress in one aspect spills over to another aspect of our life. Right? So our identities merge. Then the other thing is compensation theory. Okay, so I'm a person, if I'm thinking that my home environment is very stressful, I focus more on work. I don't think about home, right? That's compensation. But accommodation is what? If my home environment is very stressful, I don't do much at home. I only do what's required. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to focus away from what's negative, focus away from what's giving me stress, and focus on what's helping. A lot of times when work gets very, very stressful, you would have seen yourself doing it. You would have seen your colleagues doing it. People are not talking. They're just quiet. They want to reduce that noise. That is compensation. That's how you're balancing your work and life, right? There is stress at work. Something is not working out. You have written a research paper. It's gone to a reviewer. They're taking a long time to review it. It's come back with some minor changes, but then you're struggling to finish those changes, right? Publications are very, very paramount today for people in academia. Full-time faculties have to publish, there's an entire term called publish or perish. That's another set of challenges that we face. Then you have some people who deal with work life like a border. It's a permeable thing. They kind of manage it, right? They think, they don't think, they're okay moving from work to home to work in their head, right? All this balancing happens in our head. It's a very cognitive process. It's something that the brain does, right? So some of us are able to compartmentalize, like two rooms, home and work, they'll not mix. For some of us, anything that happens at home mixes into work and vice versa. Let's spill over. Compensation and accommodation. If it's giving me stress, I'll not think about it and I will put more effort in the other sphere. That's accommodation and compensation. Border theory. I keep moving between the two. There's no demarcation in my head. Each of us balance our work life differently. These are all models that have been studied by researchers over the years, over the last 40, 50 years. And this is something that applies across sector, across gender, across age. You could be somebody young, you could be somebody in your middle age, you could be somebody in your late 50s, right? In academia, the retirement age could be anywhere between 60 to 65. But I know that people who teach continue to teach that. People could become emeritus professors and people could be teaching. Right? So what did we do at that point of time when we had to find a balance? We all did something, right? What did we do? We all found a way. We decided, okay, this is what's happening at home, I'm focusing on it. This is what's happening at work, I'm focusing on it. Right? As academic professors, as faculty members, what are your challenges? A new conference is happening, your department is organizing something new. You want to be a part of it. You want to do new initiatives in the institution that you're a part of, right? Today, colleges are constantly striving for, rankings. There is a NAC committee that comes and does reviews every year for colleges. There are a lot of other international reviews and credit systems that are happening. So education systems are constantly functioning like an organization, like a corporate organization. Yeah, you're trying to maintain the quality, you're trying to maintain the standard, you're trying to maintain and understand how many publications you've got, how are your students doing, how is the placement, how is the performance of the students, all of that. And during that, what did we do? Each of us used the support that was available. It could be parents, it could be help, it could be partner, it could be colleagues, anybody. We tried to follow the timetable that we had. And somehow we all managed our work and home, right? I'm not sure how many of the men in the audience cook or manage home chores, but if you did a bit of it, you all managed, right? You had a spouse who did it, or you had help who did it. So somewhere we all managed. We all manage childcare. We all manage elder care. A lot of us may have the responsibility of looking after our parents who are unwell, right? That's a lot of work, and we all try and manage that, right? We are responsible for our parents just the way we're responsible for our children. So it's a lot of balancing that we did, and somehow, like these little stones you see on the picture, we all were balancing it. And then the pandemic happened. And what happened with the pandemic? We had chaos. The stones just fell all over, right? The entire scenario changed. I want you all to right now take a few seconds and reflect on what did you feel the first time that happened. The first time there was a lockdown in the country, and the first time you were told, okay, you know what? Colleges are shut. Depending on which college you're from, which stream you're from, right? It could completely differ. Some professional colleges had their exams coming up, some of them were just starting off a semester. Yeah, it completely differs. I was thankfully teaching masters postgraduate, and I had just finished portions when the college had announced that the students had exam in April, which got postponed. But I had just managed. We had just managed to finish our portions, and that was so much chaos. What is the first thing that you felt? The first thing at that point is you don't know what to do. A lot of us didn't have answers, right? Even today in the current scenario, the fact that you're having a faculty development program which is talking about social connectedness, because something that we took for granted 9 months back, the fact that we met our colleagues every day, the fact that you shared lunch boxes, you spoke about what's happening at home, you shared the challenges, you wanted to figure out, what, I'm teaching this, I'm doing this experiment, how better can I do it? You know what, my student did this project, and the students actually, that project internship is converting to a job opportunity in some time. You had discussions at work which helped you. At this point, that space was taken away from you, right? And you no more asked people, how are you doing? Our conversations had to be about, how are you managing? What are you doing? How are you looking at it? Right? You met colleagues. I know some professional colleges resumed where faculty members had to, start going in May, June. Some colleges did. But again, you just go there, you sit there for a couple of hours and you come back, you do your work, sitting in a separate, with social distancing, you're trying to manage it. But that initial reaction was chaos. How you managed it would have been very, very hard. Some of us, it would have been very challenging to start working from home. For some of us, it could be all right. Maybe it's okay. I'm a guest faculty, so I only go a few days a week to teach, and I teach public policy and psychology master students. I have very small numbers of students. But I know colleagues who teach undergraduate also, and who teach about 100 students in a class. It was very, very difficult. I'm sure all of you here will relate to this picture of a Lego which is in complete mess. That's what happened to our timetables, to our schedules, to our plans for the year, our academic plans, our professional plans, our personal plans. And when that happened, we realized something that was shared, right? I'm sharing a paper that was published, okay? And this was based on CMI data. And it said that pre-COVID, okay, it did a gender thing, but it also said that both men and women are affected by this lockdown, are affected by the share of work, are affected by the role challenges. It said that we are all facing what's called a double burden. It was an online survey done by the University of Maryland, US, and the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. And they said that women were spending a lot of time with housework, a lot of time, so there are people with jobs, but they're also trying to work. Okay, they're trying to get domestic help, but it was not possible, right? Initial weeks of lockdown, everything stopped for us. Men were also putting in more hours into housework, right? I have friends who cook well, but who began cooking regularly to help their spouses, right? Men had to partake in home chores because otherwise it got very difficult. And it was like wartime measures or peacetime measures. There was conflict, there was chaos, right? It was something that was unprecedented. It was something that you and I may not have ever imagined. You had partners who were working from home, right? Husbands began working from home, wives began working from home. In some cases, both are working, right? It's a couple, both of them work, both of them are working from home, both of them are wondering how will the Wi-Fi work, both of them are wondering which room to sit in, because not many of us have big homes. We don't have spaces which are separate workspaces. So we had to create interim office spaces for us to work, right? It's not like a cubicle, right? It's not like you're sitting in your department, in your faculty room, wherein you turn around and you talk to a faculty member. Here, you have to talk to a faculty member, you have to reach out through a call, you have to reach out through a message, and then you have to hope the person picks up the call and you're able to solve your problem, right? The hours of work grew for everyone. Just the amount of work you're putting in, the amount of work you're officially putting in, the amount of work you're putting in into home, right? Online classes. The biggest impact happened with online classes, right? So while we had, depending on the, like I said, depending on the colleges, depending on the AICTE regulations, you had a particular manner in which you had to do timetables. Students could do a particular number of online classes every day, right? But for faculty members, the work pressures increase. Our preparations completely changed. I understand that for an electronics engineering department, electronics and communication engineering department, how difficult it would be for you all to plan your practicals, for you all to plan your lab work, right? A lot of these instruments are not things your students may have at home. So you may have had to change the complete manner in which you conduct your practical exams or classes. Online classes was like a double burden for teachers, right? You're preparing, you're trying to teach, you're trying to learn yourself. Okay, sometimes if you have large numbers, I know that some of my colleagues, some of my friends from other colleges had to do double shifts. So they took one batch of students, then a lot of them couldn't attend because they had network issues, internet connectivity problems. A lot of students didn't have laptops at home, right? We are all not looking at it from a privilege point of view. We have to also look at it from a socio-economic point of view. The impact that happened on teachers, right? And how did we cope with it? There was a mental health impact study, okay, by Chapman University, and it looked at the COVID-19 and it said, how did it impact our mental health? It had about 4,000 participants, and it said that most people are feeling a lot of stress, okay, feeling anxious, feeling nervous. We are constantly feeling on the edge, okay. People were eating more than before, right? You're eating because you're stressed. That's a very normal human behavior, right? People are feeling that they're trapped at home. People are concerned about catching COVID, right? A lot of people are watching more television. A lot of people are wondering how to move on, how to move ahead, right? All these challenges are there. The numbers are really, really high. Yeah, more than half of your survey respondents, 4,000 is a large number for a survey. More than half of your survey respondents are actually saying they're feeling stressed and anxious most of the time. Now, while I've taken this study from a university because it looked at faculty and it looked at students, it's important to understand that the impact happened very, very largely on academia, right? Not everybody may talk about it because everybody said, what are the teachers doing? What's the faculty doing? Yeah, they just have to do online classes. And I tell people it's not that simple. The amount of background work that we are doing now to look at attendance, to look at assignments, if we gave one assignment which kind of took care of the interim thing, now we'll have to split that into multiple assignments because we need to make sure we are fair to the students. Students have the opportunity. I was in a Viva exam where my student finished presenting her master's thesis presentation and she lost connectivity and she couldn't answer the Q&A. Thankfully, the external evaluator was very, very empathetic. Just what you spoke about this morning, right? Emotional intelligence. I'm sure the speaker spoke about Daniel Goleman's model, right, of emotional intelligence and how you have to be aware. There's self-awareness, there's self-management, there's relationship management, there's social management, there's empathy. The external evaluator was very empathetic. And the external evaluator told me, since you're the guide, can I ask you a few questions for clarification? Thankfully, it did not affect my student. But my student was on the verge of tears and very, very stressed. We as faculty members were stressed. I had another student from Northeast who was unable to log in for the exam. The entire area had problems with internet. So thankfully, college had made an opportunity wherein all students who missed it at the first go, they were given an opportunity to rewrite their exams again. But that takes a lot of work for an institution, for an academic institution to do, right? So you have the larger organization, which is academic institution dealing with it. You have each department dealing with their own stress. Each department has their annual goals. Each department has their, quarterly goals. And I'm sure, just like this faculty development program, this is an initiative, but this is also a goal. This is also a performance indicator for the department. So it would be a lot of effort that everybody in the department would have put into organize this. And that causes stress. That causes mental health impact. This is something that not many people constantly talk about, but it's something that's important to talk about, how it's impacted academia. What has it meant for all of you, right? I have given a couple of options, but we do have a question and answer in the end. And if any of you have an extra point to add, which I have missed out, please message me on the chat at that point and let me know. Increase in workload, like I said, right? Our workload became very, very high. Adapting to newer technology, right? Lot of senior faculty members had to adapt to new technology. Lot of junior faculty members had to learn new things. So you could know a particular format, but at times that format may not work, right? I work as an industry consultant also. So like I said, there has been days when I have done a morning session on Google Meet, an afternoon session on Zoom, and an evening session on WebEx, right? And it's a new learning. Initially, when it happened, it's very overwhelming. At an academic level, I think most colleges that I have spoken to or colleagues I've spoken to, most people use MS Teams, Microsoft Teams, right? And some colleges may use a combination of Zoom and Microsoft Teams, Google Meet and Microsoft Teams, depending on how, what is the availability of technology with the college, right? It was an investment for the college to make, to move this entire teaching online. For us as faculty members, it was adapting to new technology. Disruption in the set process of teaching and classes. We would all have our year plan, our semester plan. It's all calendared, right? Academia is very, very calendared. So what happens? Everything went off track. It's like a train that's going well, and then each bogie suddenly is on a different track. And that is what happened to us, right? And while we were managing that, we also had to adhere to job expectations that were there. We had to continue to teach, we had to continue to mentor, and we had to continue to interact. We had to continue to engage with our students. Students were also facing the stress. Students were having mental breakdowns. Students were, unable to handle it. And we had to assure them as teachers, as faculty members, as people they look up to. We also had to manage that equation. We had to counsel our students, right? We had to be empathetic towards them. Like I said, this entire social connectiveness, the entire component of empathy, the entire component of how different parts of the ecosystem comes together becomes very, very important, right? The additional stress of the unknown, not knowing what's happening with our jobs, not knowing what our college is going to do, how are students going to cope, how are exams going to happen, how are we going to prepare for the next batch, right? We all understand that with engineering colleges, a new batch means a lot of work. They are writing all India entrance exams, they're writing state level entrance exams, you're having students who are going to come in from different places, right? It's an entire new process which was set. But then this year, the process has changed. A lot of colleges have done it blended. A lot of colleges have planned for next year in a fashion which is, let's see what comes. This June, July was chaos for colleges, right? And then you have the stress at home. If both the partners, if both the spouses are working, it's a very, very stressful environment because both their work is important. How do you decide whose work is more important, right? Each of us have different deadlines. Each of us could have different demands, right? If both the spouses are in academia, there could be some understanding. Sometimes spouses could be from completely different sectors, right? Sometimes you could have one partner who's not working. Each of it has its own challenges. And it's taken all of us a lot of work at the relational level, at the social connectedness level, to get there. To understand that there are going to be challenges, we are going to be vulnerable. What does it mean? What is vulnerability? To accept that, I'm not able to deal with it. I think that is something that we all learned to do over this time, and then handle these challenges better. So what happened with the lockdown? The uncertainty was a radical change. There was chaos, there was conflict. Work demands continued, home demands surged. A lot of us felt anxious. We felt anxiety. We felt we were not in control of the situation, right? You have your monthly calendar in place, you have your department meetings in place, you have your division meetings in place, right? Everything is planned. Suddenly, everything kind of was everything had to be changed because nobody really knew. You suddenly were told that you cannot go to college, right? It impacted people's physical health. It impacted people's mental well-being. Okay. A lot of times it is seen that because it's unequal gender norms, that's one part of it. But it's also social conditions, it's also economic impacts that all of us saw at the academia, the new normal. There are students who face difficulty to write online exams, attend online classes. I have had students who have attended classes through a mobile phone, but you cannot write an exam on a mobile phone. So they had to procure a laptop, borrow a laptop, get it from somebody in the lockdown time. Right? Those are huge mental health challenges. It affects them mentally also. Some of us decided to fight the situation. Some of us decided to, run away, not think of it. Some of us froze at that point. We didn't know what to do. No right or wrong. All these reactions are natural. All these reactions are normal. All these reactions are expected. Right? So think back and understand, how did you first react? And then understand that it's okay. Every reaction is all right. Every reaction is acceptable by nature. So there was the balance, there was the chaos, and the final segment, the rebalance. Work-life rebalance. That's the topic. What are we looking at? What are you rebalancing? What's important to tell yourself? It is important to tell yourself that you got this. To tell yourself that you're trying your best to deal with it. I'm going to give you all about a minute, and I want all of you to do this, whoever is seeing this on screen. I want you all to draw a round piece of cake, okay, on a piece of paper. Draw a round cake, draw a circle. And then I want you to share that cake with the most important people in your life. So you can do like a pie chart, right? We all understand pie charts. So I want that circular cake. It has to be a circular cake. I want that circular cake to be cut into different pies, and I want you to write the percentage. I want you to give the cake to the most important people in your life. Okay, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to do this. So I want you to quickly, I'm hoping that people who are sitting and attending the session are holding a pen and are holding a notepad, because it's important when you're attending sessions. You could make notes, you could write. So I want you all to draw this cake of life. I'm going to actually wait for about 30 seconds. And I'm hoping some of you in the audience would be doing it. Yeah, and quickly write, who will you give it to? Each piece of cake, who will you give it to? How many ever pieces you want, you can make. You can make 4 pieces, you can make 5 pieces, you can make 10 pieces of that big cake. How many ever? Okay, I think that's about 30 seconds. I want you to look at the cake, and I want you to reflect and understand how many of you in the audience kept a piece for yourself. Okay, how many of you kept a piece for yourself? Interestingly, whenever I have done this with large crowds, very, very few people keep a piece for themselves. Yeah, we talk about work-life balance. We talk about connecting. We talk about social connectedness, but we often forget ourselves in the balance. We are so busy taking care of our home, of our work, of people around us, that we forget ourselves. And that is one of the biggest things you have to remember. Your life is like that piece of cake. Till you give yourself a share of it, till you take care of yourself, you cannot achieve work-life balance. Work-life balance is an individual component. There are policies in the organization, there are support systems in the ecosystem, but how do you look at it? Do you take that step to say, you know what, I am important. You know what, my career is important. I'm going to balance it out. I'm going to see how this works for me. To be able to do that, you have to tell yourself that you got this. Right? I absolutely love this picture. All the pictures that I've used in this presentation, most of them are from unsplash.com, and I have author credits for all of them in my notes segment. But to understand that when you're looking for balance, think of life as a round cake, and always give yourself a piece of cake. Because till you take care of yourself, you cannot achieve work-life balance. You cannot take care of people around you. As a faculty member, till you take care of yourself, your mental health, you cannot do justice to your colleagues. You cannot do work at academic level that's good. You cannot help your students. As a person at home, as a husband, a wife, a daughter, a son, a parent, till you take care of yourself, you cannot take care of people around you. This component of rebalancing, this component of work life is something that you all need to understand and you all need to remember. I'm going to talk about a very, very important component called the circle of influence. Okay, this was discussed by Stephen Covey when he spoke about the 7 habits of effective people, right? And Stephen Covey said that we all have a circle of influence. We all have a small circle of people, of situation, of circumstance that we can control. I'm going to today take an analogy of the presentation today, right? The presentation today is streamed. What do I have control over? I have control over what I share with you, right? This is our awareness about ourselves and what I can do. I have control over my content. I have control over my presentation. I have control over how am I emoting, how am I reacting. I cannot see you all as an audience, but I know that you all are listening to me. How am I connecting with you? That's my inner circle. That's my control. Then I have a component, which is the we. What can I influence? Right? Before I began the session, I had Professor Ravi from the host group, right? Who connected with me, who made me familiar with the technology, who I asked a couple of questions. He got me completely comfortable. And then he said, you know what? We're going to go live soon. We are in the broadcast room, right? So the field of influence is that. Okay, there was a bit of conversation. There's a bit of building the relationship. He influenced me by his knowledge of understanding the streaming platform. And I influenced him by telling him, what am I going to talk about? Right? And he asked me a bit about my profile, and I told him a couple of things. So your immediate circle after your control is whom you can influence. So what can I influence today? When I'm asking you all these little questions, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to influence you all. When I'm telling you, draw that large cake and divide it and give it to people who are most important. And I'm telling you, did you give yourself a piece? What am I doing? I'm trying to influence you. When I ask you to think, when the pandemic happened, what was your first reaction? What am I doing? I'm asking you to think. I'm asking you to reflect, right? That's influencing. I'm trying to influence you. Okay, that's partially in my control. I'm sure some of you are doing it. I'm sure some of you are just sitting and thinking, what is this happening? And some of you may just be, okay, let's see what does she mean by it? Each of us have different reactions, right? No right and wrong. We're all on a human continuum. All of that influence is part of your emotional intelligence that you spoke this morning, right? Like I said, your speaker would have spoken to you about self-awareness. Your speaker would have spoken to you about managing your emotions, being aware of your emotions. That's in your control. Okay, but influencing, managing somebody else's emotions, being aware of somebody else's emotions is an influence area. You want to try and influence it, but it's not completely in your control. Then you have things which you're aware of, which are concerned about, but something you may not really have any control over. That's a larger thing. What do I have no control over today? I really do not have control over whether my internet will work if something goes wrong. I was in a session last week, and the entire Airtel connectivity in the area I live in went down for 4 hours. My dongle, which is Geo, which was charged completely, went off in about 3 hours, 10 minutes. And then I tried using hotspot, it didn't work, and I had to recalibrate my last 40 minutes of my session. I had to redo it another day. Things like that are not in our control at all, but they are my concern. I'm concerned about it. As I begin a session and I know it's live streaming, I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about what would happen if my internet goes off. I'm using my dongle currently. I'm also making sure I'm checking constantly if my Wi-Fi is working. I have my phone next to me in case I need to move to hotspot. Right? I'm trying to be prepared. It's in my concern, but it's not in my control. My presentation, what I speak to you, what I share is in my control. The questions I asked, how I try to influence you, that's in my influence. I can try and do something. Okay, it's still partially in my control. But then what's not in my control? The internet connectivity today, right? It's not in our control. Something happens to the entire live streaming, not in my control, right? But what do you need to understand from this circle of influence? You have to understand that you need to control what you can, and what you cannot control, you have to learn to let go. You have to learn that it's not worth your mental space, because you cannot have a peaceful mental space unless you're able to let go. I see a wonderful lineup of speakers over the next few days who are actually going to be talking about all of that. We have people who are talking about emotional balancing. We have people who are going to talk to you about, a little more on empathy, a little more on connecting with people around, connecting with community. You will also understand in the process that there are some things you can control, but things that you can't, you should let go. And how do you do this rebalance? How do you find that piece of cake for yourself? Seek and find me time. In this pandemic, in this chaos led, a lot of us have completely stopped doing anything for ourselves. So you could be somebody who would go walking every morning, but you're not able to do it, right? There were very strict rules on masks. It's still very strict. I live in an apartment. The moment there is a case in the apartment, we have a thing which says you cannot walk down for a few days, right? So it completely curbs my walking, right? But then I have to find me time. I'm a person who likes to read, so I read. That's my me time. Learn to say no. There's a lot of work pressure. Our temporal and spatial boundaries have merged currently, but we need to learn to say no. Sometimes it's easy to say yes, it's difficult to say no, but learn to say no when you think the work pressure is too much. Learn to say no when you think it's not working in your favor, right? Perfectionism is desirable. All of us as faculty members have to constantly strive for perfectionism, right? The way we work, the way we teach, the new things that we teach, the new things that we learn, we incorporate that into our teaching. I have learned a new technology. I try to teach my students, because I also work in industry and academia. If I learn something new in industry, I come and tell that to my students. If I learn something in academic that's new, a theory that was developed, a patent that has been created, I talk about that in my industrial sessions, right? So I take one learning from one place to the other. But all that is good, but not at the cost of self. It's not at the cost of me being completely stressed out, me being completely wondering what to do. At times, we need to chill. I'm using a line that's very young, that's used by our students who say, you know what, you need to chill at times, ma'am, right? We need to chill. It's okay to at times not be rushed. It's okay to not sit with that long list and constantly tick it off. It's all right. You have to learn to kind of take it easy at times. Not possible with senior faculty members. Like I said, you're part of senior leadership, right? Department HODs are like the part of senior leadership in an organization. Your principal is like the CEO of the organization, right? Your academic board is like the board of governors in an organization, correct? So you can draw parallels. And I understand it's very stressful for senior faculty members. It's stressful for junior faculty members in their own way. But at times it's okay to, take a break, take it easy for some time. Tell yourselves, I'll not work on a Sunday, right? Tell yourself that sometimes if I have a family function on a Saturday, I'm going to take that half Saturday off. Set your own rules on how you will work and how we will balance that work in life. right? It's very, very important. There are some things which will help you keep your mental balance. There's some things which will help you take care of your mental health. And you need to understand how to do that. That becomes really important. What can you do? Focus on yourself. We have a lot of Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy which talks about mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is being in the present. Mindfulness is about equanimity, which means without judgment, accepting things as they are and trying to cope with it. Yeah, smile a lot. When you see people on virtual meetings, smile because that helps break the tension, right? Relax, think positively. It is stressful. Even today, I'm not sure if my students of the next semester are going to come physically to class in January. I have absolutely no idea. I will know when the college intimates all faculty members, but then I cannot sit worrying about it. Some of us like to garden, some of us like to talk to friends, some of us like to play games with family members, right? You play carom, you play Scrabble, you play video games. Some of us like to exercise, some of us like to spend time with nature. Okay, some of us may want to write, we may have pets at home, we may like to cook. There are different things that we could do, but we all need to work towards being more mindful. We need to focus on the self. Remember that piece of cake. We need to have self-care. Take care of your own health. Take care of how much you're sleeping. Are you eating well? Are you taking care of yourself? Self-love. Put yourself first. If you're very, very stressed, take that 10-minute break before your next meeting. Yeah. I know that between our online classes, there's always a little break, right? I think that's how schedules are being planned. Use that time to focus. Use that time to relax. Get a cup of tea, right? It really helps. Self-love is about respecting and loving yourself. Self-preservation, if it's stressful, ask for help from your colleagues. You don't have to do everything in the pandemic. Balancing is about that. Ask help from your colleagues. Ask help from your spouses at home. Ask help from your other family members. If you live with your siblings, your brothers and sisters, ask help from them. If you have a large extended joint family, ask help from each other. That is self-preservation. And finally is self-reliance, resilience, right? The entire thing of empathy and self-management in emotional intelligence is about building self-resilience, being dependable on yourself, building your own credibility, building your strength. That's self-resilience. How do I do it? What did I do well? Right? That becomes very, very important. What can you do, for example? Right? I'm going to share with you something that I always talk about when I do these sessions on work life. I tell people that bring a jar. It could be a glass jar or it could be anything that you have, right? On a small sheet of paper, write down something that you did that day, which was very good. You helped a friend. You finished a writing a grant proposal. You kind of helped a student, right? You did something at home. You cooked your favorite dish. You cleaned your home, something, some small thing that you did, which seems like an achievement today with the work pressures. Fold that shit, put it into the jar. Write a few chits every week. In a few months, when you look back, you will realize how you have come over difficulties, how you have taken care of the odds, how you have understood to move ahead. That is work life balance. And that is mindfulness, to be aware, to accept, and to live in the moment. Right? A lot of us may do yoga, may do meditation. That helps us be mindful. Some of us may do drawing and sketching. Some of us do gardening. I like to cook. For me, cooking is very distressing. So when I'm stressed, I will cook a lot at home, right? But that's my way to deal with my stress. Each of us have individual ways to deal with our stress, okay? And that becomes very, very important, okay? So the jar that you create is called the pebble jar of resilience. And I want you all to maybe do that as a little exercise, okay? I think I've taken about 70 minutes. I would like to open the floor for discussion. Professor Ravi, should I stop sharing the presentation?
Yes, ma'am, please. Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And we request all the participants, if you have any queries, means you can post it in the chat box so that we can communicate with the resource person.
Yeah, I can see the chat also now. So
Yeah,
if you have
ma'am.
any
Yeah.
questions, please ask.
Dear participants, once again we request, please post your queries in the chat box so that might be
Okay. I
answering
have a
to those
question,
queries.
participants, as I see the chat box. How many of you gave yourself a piece of cake? Just write an yes, and I'll see how many people gave yourself a piece of cake.
Yes, ma'am. One participant, Akanksha Sharma, madam has
Okay.
messaged. I kept the biggest piece for myself. Madam has kept like this.
Wonderful, wonderful, Ms. Akanksha. I think that's really good. If you take care of yourself, you take care of everybody around you. Okay.
And we got some nice feedback, ma'am. Very interesting session. Excellent presentation.
Okay.
Super, so relevant and apt. Nice session. Informative session. So this is the feedback what they have posted in the
Thank
chat
you.
box, ma'am.
Thank you. I would also like you all to ask questions. Please ask me questions if there's anything that you have. I think for me, when I got the invitation, it was very interesting because I like to talk about work-life balance, and I talk about it in industry, I talk about it in academia, but it's always different, right? Because I think in academia, people don't talk about work life that much. Today, we are talking about it, but I think we all think that, teaching is easy, right? You just go 9 to 4, you come back home. But the amount of pressure that faculty people feel is immense. And I think to accept that, to be able to help each other becomes really, really important.
And some of them have mentioned, ma'am, it was very informative, very good session, ma'am. Heart touching
Okay.
session, ma'am, by Swati, madam.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
But
we request all the participants, we have posted the feedback link for your reference. So it has been posted in the chat box. So we request all the participants kindly fill the feedback form for the afternoon session.
no questions. I think Professor Ravi, they've just started off, so maybe they're just warming up to asking questions. But you can give my email ID to them if people have any queries. If anybody's wanting to do studies on this or wanting to understand, they can always connect with me. I'll be more than happy to help them.
Yes, sure, ma'am, we will do that.
Okay. Nothing else, I think. I guess there are
Ma'am,
no questions then.
yes, some participant has given. Yes, ma'am. Online teaching is not easy. They have mentioned in the chat box, ma'am.
Yes, it's not. It's not at all. I mean, you're moving from teaching one subject to another, moving between batches. Then you suddenly have to remember there are 100 students and you have to check attendance. Whichever platform you use, it's very complicated. There's so much of work you need to do at the end of every class and even to prepare. It's very, very complex. And, anybody who tells me that, oh, what are teachers doing? I tell them that you have no idea. Be a teacher and you will know how difficult it is.
Thank you, ma'am. We
Okay.
would like
Thank you
to
so
thank,
much.
yes, ma'am. We would like to thank Dr. Madhurima Das, Learning and Development Consultant and Guest Faculty, Mount Carmel College, Bengaluru, from the organizing committee for accepting our invitation and gracing this event. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravi. I thank everybody at your department and college for this invitation. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We would like to conclude the day one of the 5 days AICT Training and Learning Atal Academy sponsored online faculty development program on training for social connectedness and inspiration. Thank you, one and all. We request all the participants kindly join for tomorrow's session also. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Have a
ma'am.
lovely day. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.